assume.
What's that?
That you invited Spencer to come to this meeting?
Yes, I told him about this. I told him that we were going to be discussing it on Tuesday. I didn't explicitly tell him that he needed to come. But at that point that I told him about that, obviously we got these values kind of short notice, and just because of the time crunch. And at the time that I told him he didn't need to come, I thought he was moving them from outside the county. So, I mean, he could have came and stated his case if you guys want. I mean, I can invite him to a future meeting. I mean, he can come, but it doesn't necessarily have to be on the board meeting or a board packet or agenda. He can come and state his case whenever he feels like. But I can let him know what your guys' initial thoughts on it. And, like I said, I'll let you know.
I would him, we maybe want to leave that door open that if he feels a grievance, that he certainly can come to the board and pitch his case well too. Yeah,
I can. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a citizen, so he can come to any board meeting he wants and he can speak his mind. So I'll let him know that if he feels that that's what he wants to do, we definitely can. So,
Mr. Chairman, in light of this and the discussions we're having, I would recommend the board make a motion to deny the request for a public hearing for this tax abatement. I think that would spell it out clearly that it's not ambiguous at all what the decision of the board was.
Okay.
I'd make that motion.
Okay, Luke made a motion.
Second.
Chris seconded. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Yeah.
There was a question, this is another, about a driveway off of the highway there. Is that something Nick will be dealing with? I think there was a plan to make a driveway off the highway there, but
Oh, sure. Yeah, not a problem.
I would think he'd have
On his plans, he's going to build a driveway right off of County Road
that's the way it
17.
kind of looks to me, but I don't know. We'll let Nick will
Yeah, you look at his plan.
Yeah.
probably hear about that. I don't know if there's any issue with that, but
Driveways or one?
But yeah, doesn't he have to get approval for any?
I think so for County Road.
Yeah.
Because Bob Menning was a little further north up there, put a new home in there last fall or this spring, and I think he had talked with Nick about that, because you need a culvert and you need.
Yep.
Right.
That's, Nick will deal with that.
Of course, sometimes they won't let you have it too close to an
Yeah.
intersection or whatever.
Yeah. There is some drainage that runs through that ditch off the highway and stuff there, so.
Was Mennings in the city limits as well?
No, Bob is not.
This is.
This is.
This is in the city.
Bob is actually on his own farmland there.
Oh, okay.
There's a hunk of farm that comes out there, but, so he's rural. I mean, he isn't
Okay.
in the city, but. Okay, so we're kind of waiting for Domain. Luke, you want to talk about your report?
Sure. On the 8th, got the insurance committee with Chris, and also saw the Rock Township Board that evening. On the 9th, One Watershed, One Plan for the Missouri River. They've encumbered $359,000 of their $930,000 in project funds thus far, and they're seeking federal money to help stretch what they've already gotten from the state. On the 10th, AMC had their general sessions. We had an update on the Blue Ribbon Committee. President Svei wanted to thank those members of the Blue Ribbon Committee, which would be Commissioner Wildermuth from Pipestone. So thank you, Dan, for your involvement with that. And we got an election update from the Secretary of State and some other presentations. On the 14th, the Ditch Committee met and lined up the tree. Well, after receiving no tree bids, and we, Kyle met with Jamie Doubleday and the Ditch Committee to try to come up with a proposal, which obviously we took action on later. Then later, the AMC Environmental and Natural Resource Policy Committee met. We had presentations from a number of the AMC affiliates. And then on the 15th, union negotiations with the deputies group. We thought we had a tentative agreement, and then that apparently was later turned down, but we don't know why. We're going to meet again next Tuesday. On the 16th, AMC board met. They are going to have a virtual conference this year on Monday, December 7th. The board and officer terms were extended 1 year due to COVID. The fall district meetings will be virtual. Then I had the Minnesota Rural Counties met that later in the day. Heard a presentation from the Minnesota State Economist on how rural areas are changing, and the U of M Extension had a presentation on community economics. They were saying that they're now looking at some of the housing that elderly people live in as the housing that, you know, a lot of rural communities need. You know, as these people age out of their homes, and that if they could be spruced up, you know, that would provide the housing that communities need. But obviously there has to be a process to facilitate that, to get them, you know, in some cases they'd have to be updated and whatever, probably brought up to code, but it's about time they finally recognize that there's housing already in a lot of these communities, but it just needs to be spruced up a little instead of building new all the time. On the 17th, the Environment and Natural Resource Policy Committee met again. There was a presentation on public drainage funding, and then began breakout sessions on setting the priorities for 2021. Later that day, the Bylaws Committee finally wrapped up their work, and they were submitted to the AMC board and will go out to the fall district meetings. On the 18th, the Environment and Natural Resource Policy Committee met for the last time to review their policy options. The top 3 priorities selected were platform items related to blighted and contaminated tax forfeiture properties, having a stakeholder solution to propose changes to the public waters inventory, and supporting allocating 100% of the revenue generated from the solid waste management tax to state and county waste management activities, instead of having 30% go to the general fund, which is currently what's happening. On the 21st, we had the COVID update. On the 22nd, the hospital board. On the 28th, the Southwest Regional Solid Waste Commission met. We voted to forego dues for 2021. And this was kind of funny. MPCA staff mentioned that there's been an increase in unfounded complaints for solid waste violations this year, probably because neighbors have nothing to do and are just, you know, trying to get their neighbors in trouble or whatever. The 30th, the Highway 23 Coalition met. They're seeking to quantify the ag component for freight on Highway 23 to add to the freight study. The Transportation Alliance website has some PowerPoints on presentations for how to get federal dollars from the FAST Act and other newer federal programs. They mentioned that Highway 14 was able to get some dollars from a build grant, and they're hoping that Highway 23 can get some next year. Apparently they're kind of limited by each state, can only get one per year or something. And they're postponing their fall membership meeting until late first quarter of 2021 due to the virus concerns. On the first, Area 2 and RCRCA met. Lake Redwood confined disposal facilities a month ahead of schedule, should be completed this week. Of course, they're working on a number of projects prior to winter. They did staff reviews and gave 1% merit and 1% COLAs. And the annual meeting was canceled due to COVID. On the 5th, MRC annual business meeting, I was elected the new chair, and the vice chair is going to be Jerry Rapp from Douglas County, and Sharon Bring from Marshall County is the secretary treasurer. We had presentations on mental health. They said that 40% of the U.S. population has either had a mental health or substance abuse issue since COVID began. Minnesota had loosened restrictions on virtual visits, both by the number and types of venues that could be used to accommodate the you know, like they can use phone and Skype and some things that they weren't allowed to before. They mentioned all rural Minnesota has mental health staff shortages. Low wages were cited as one factor, but also the fact that a lot of graduates just don't even want to go into a licensed practice per se. They choose other opportunities. Then they said, somebody from Department of Ag that does mental health outreach says that euthanizing hogs can lead to PTSD. So obviously that, a lot of that going on around our area. Director of Economic Analysis with DEED said over 44% of people in Minnesota were teleworking, from home or whatever. We were 6th in the United States. About 23% of Minnesota households had difficulty paying household expenses. That was actually the 4th best in the United States, so most of them have more than that are struggling. And they thought about 77% of Minnesota businesses did get help through the Paycheck Protection Program. They mentioned some comparison on their website. They have a compare Minnesota counties and county profile pages that you can check out to see how we, rank compared to others. And then had a presentation from the Rural Broadband Coalition where Murray County spoke about their spotty internet service, and then Rock County bragged up that they're the #1 wired county in the state over #2 Ramsey County. On the 7th, Prime Health had a little audit meeting I went to. On the 8th, the Soil and Water District approved several cost share contracts. They discussed that Minnesota LIDAR acquisition plan that we had talked about before. But until there's more concrete information on the financial contributions from the state and federal government, probably have to wait and see what happens on that. And then they approved a couple grant agreements. On the 9th, AMC board met. Their 2021 budget was reduced by nearly 20% due to decreased revenue, not being able to have conferences and whatnot. The dues, as Steve mentioned earlier, will increase between 1% and 3%, depending on how the formula works out for each county. The suggested bylaws change will go out to the fall district meetings. They mentioned they were having AMC building security issues, of course, because of how things are in the Twin Cities. They've had a lot of issues with people hanging out in that parking lot across the street, to the point that some days they have 50 or more hanging out in that parking lot. And some workers are hesitant to even go to the office because they don't want to deal with the drug activity and whatever else is going on there. Then on top of that, Bethesda Hospital is closing, which is on the end of their block. But Ramsey County is considering leasing it for a homeless shelter for up to 150 beds. But if they do that, they said that they would have day programs and added security and whatnot, so that the people wouldn't necessarily have to just be kicked out on the streets during the day, with nothing to do. So it might actually be helpful in a way, certainly better than just having the people have nowhere to go, or having the building sit vacant, which is, not going to help the neighborhood. And then, of course, we discussed about the COVID costs, and that kind of got dropped, and reviewed the timeline for policy development. Yesterday, the Policy Coordinating Committee met for AMC, which is basically the chairs of the various policy committees, met with the executive committee to try to fine-tune some of the proposals being offered by the various committees, change some minor language changes and that kind of thing. But that all got taken care of. And then in the afternoon, we had that meeting with Prime Health and Renville County Hospital, which was very awkward, but we'll have to just wait and see how that plays out. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Les, you have something to?
Yeah. On September 1st, we had a budget meeting here. On the 3rd, CARES Act meeting, and also Prime West that afternoon. On the 10th, we had Soil and Water, and Luke kind of reported on that. Then on the 11th, again, had CARES Act. The 14th was Plant Ops, and everybody got that report at the hospital board meeting. Then on the 15th, we had union negotiations, where we thought we were setting pretty good, but fell apart. 16th had Health and Human Services. Outside of the basic financials, Dan, there wasn't a lot there, was there? outside of the COVID reports.
I agree. It was a pretty straightforward meeting for Health and Human Services.
Yep. Then on the 21st CARES Act meeting again, and then that afternoon I had Southwest Pick and Marshall, and then I had to leave a little early to get back for another meeting. Then on the 22nd, Hospital Board. 23rd, we had Buildings and Plant meeting. We resubmitted a proposal for the roof materials to get approved for the second time. And finally, we got it done. So then on the 23rd, I had Radio Board. And there wasn't a lot to report there because we got a lot of activity coming up at the end of the year. That'll be more information for what happens next year. So it's the end of my report, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. I had the first, we had the budget meeting, everybody was there with that. 8th, our normal county meeting. On 10th, I had an SRDC Zoom meeting. It's kind of hard to get much information out of that other than just sitting listening to it. 14th, Plan Ops, Les talked about that. A lot of the discussion was about the street project there and the new senior solutions issue going forward. They've been working on that. Let's see, what else do we have? On the 22nd, we had the county board meeting and the PCMC board meeting. That's all I had. So, Dan, you have your report? Can you give us your report, Dan?
Yep, I couldn't quite hear you, so yeah, I'm ready. Again, on the 1st, we had the special budget meeting I reported on. The 3rd, we had CARES Act. As Les had mentioned, we had that throughout the month. Maybe Les, we can elaborate on that a little bit. We have used up our allocated funds then for our for-profit companies and businesses. And we had money left over in our nonprofits, so we're looking at maybe reallocating some of that. And I think we still have a couple little straggler requests that need to be finalized. Other than that, I think those first funds are pretty well allocated, are they, Steve?
I'm sorry, Dan, I didn't quite hear you.
I say the first funds that for our CARES Act money, we pretty much have allocated all the funds out, have we not?
Yes, I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
I think Tyler had mentioned. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, but we're anticipating more going forward if we get another funding. What we say, Steve?
Yes, we may even get more funding from the federal government. We'll see where that goes.
But there's possibility that some of the county or the townships might send some money back to the county too. I don't know at what point that might happen.
That will be towards the end of November.
November 15th, isn't it?
So there's something, you might have some stuff there to deal with too when, we don't know that, but that's a possibility.
Yep, that's correct. Then moving on, then on the 10th, we had our Pipestone Area Coalition meeting then with Ashley Gustafson. They also have got funds to use. They purchased cloth masks for all the students to be given away with the coalition logo and so forth on it. They also, are having to be very creative how they meet and so forth and going forward. But all that things at school have been going fairly well, although people's, there certainly is a level of tension there. And on the 14th, Luke had reported on, on the AMC fall general session. On the 15th, through Rural Minnesota Energy Board, we had our PACE committee meeting. Again, this was the one with Robin Weiss. It's our program for low-income loans for energy improvements for businesses. We just want to encourage businesses to utilize this program. The loan then is guaranteed was against how that loan guaranteed for the PACE committee and for the joint force group. Then on the 16th, weekend was a continuation of AMC Fall. We broke into our committees, Health and Human Services Committee. We had a very long discussion about our platform. Last year, as you probably recall, number one on our platform was the concern about procurement and county-based purchasing. Some of the people are forgetting how important that message is. So we had a pretty intense discussion about that. It still is on the platform. It'll be discussed more at the regional meetings coming up. So again, I encourage you guys to voice your opinion when that question comes up at the regional meetings, how important that is for all the counties. Also, Luke, you had mentioned in your report about the Blue Ribbon Committee. That is one of the things that we've talked about, the Blue Ribbon Committee, in addition to the work we've done with waivers for Health and Human Services, and now we're hoping that some of those waivers can be made permanent. Also discussed about broadband, how important that is for all of the counties. It's a little bit interesting as you look across the state, the counties have been able to utilize their CARES Act in some different ways as well too. We're not all doing it exactly the same. We still have the same guidelines, of course, but how it's being applied has been different in some regions. That AMC meeting followed through then into Friday as well. Also Friday, I had my Southwest Teen Mental Health Consortium meeting, and that was in preparation then for our annual meeting, which we just had last Friday. On the 21st, I had my Southwest Minnesota Opportunity Councils meeting down in Worthington. That was an in-person meeting. Gene Metz from Nobles County has taken over then from me as chair now. One of the things, our agency office there in Worthington, downtown, had been pretty well shuttered since COVID, but we were able to implement a more friendly, consumer-friendly program for that. The building has got a foyer that comes into the building with a glass partition. So we directed our director then to go ahead and open that foyer up so that people could have access to people, not just via phone. There's still a glass partition, so there's no danger of transmitting the virus at all. In regards to transmitting the virus, of course, our big concern is our Head Start program. And with our school, both here at Pipestone and the one that we got down in Worthington, working with the new building on our students and staff, we were just notified that one of our staff personnel, through routine testing, had discovered that she does have the virus. She's asymptomatic. She didn't know about it. The reason she had the routine screening is because she's got some medical things coming up, surgery that she had to be screened for. Her exposure to the rest of the staff and the students was minimal because of her position that she had. Also, the safeguards with both face shields. You might recall I mentioned before, all of our students, when they get on the bus, they've got a hat with a face shield attached right to the hat, so they wear that in and out of the building. However, the staff person also was in one classroom. So the level of protection there, not the length of exposure was greater than just. So that classroom has been quarantined. The staff person and that classroom has been quarantined until October 6th. So far, we have not seen any spread of that. So hopefully that will mitigate any exposure. Of course, our Head Start director is working in close coordinates with them with State Department of Health and Human Services. We're in good shape on that so far. And then followed up with our Casey Jones meeting on the 24th that Chris and I had already talked about. Then my last meeting of the month then was on the 28th, and that was that solid waste. And also in the afternoon, we have our Rural Minnesota Energy Board over at SRDC. What we're doing at that, in fact, is going to culminate tomorrow. our Minnesota Rural Energy Board has been putting together a transmission summit. We've got the director of Minnesota Public Utilities Commission, John Puma, is going to moderate this summit for us. It's going to be a 2-day event. First